I travel the world, full-time, and I'm definitely not rich. How can I afford to travel constantly then? You better open your ears, because in this video I'm gonna give you my best advices. Hi, I'm Mary Jane, and in this channel I show you how I travel full-time and how I can afford it. Consider subscribing if you're interested, because I just started publishing an entire series of videos about this topic. In every trip there are 4 categories of expenses: accommodation, transportation, food and attractions. And now I'm gonna tell you how to save loads of money in each one of them.
Explain something.
If you're traveling quite far from home, obviously transportation is gonna be a big part of your budget. But there are several ways to cut this cost. First of all, if this is a viable option, very often traveling overland is way cheaper than taking a flight. And sometimes it doesn't even come with a bigger consume of time. But it certainly reduces the carbon footprint of your journey, because airplanes are super polluting for the air. I gave you all the details on how to find cheap overland transportations in Europe and North America in a video that I shot already, and I will link it down below in the description. When it comes to flights, the price for the same route usually vary significantly. The main factors that you can play with to get the cheapest options are flexible dates, types of companies, and layovers. There are always those 2 days a month where the price of the flight to the place where you want to go is half the price of the average in that month. So if you can be flexible with the dates, you can choose one of those 2 or 3 days, and that's a huge advantage. Not all the companies offer the same standard of service. The higher quality companies, like the national ones for example, offer very comfortable and secure experiences. If you want to save money, for sure you're going to choose cheaper companies. But please don't expect a top quality service. Be aware that there may be delays. The seats are not going to be comfortable. You're gonna have 0 leg space probably. Your hand luggage may end up in the hold of the airplane. There are gonna be no free snacks and so on. Extra tip for whom is going to travel for at least a couple of weeks. Usually flights with a layover, or even better with multiple layovers, are going to be cheaper. Now, layovers, yes, they add stress to a trip if your interest is only and specifically the destination of your trip. But if you are a little bit more adventurous and you think that the journey is still part of the trip, I suggest you to follow my example. So if I have to get a flight with layover for budget reasons, I make sure that the layover is long enough. Yes, exactly. I make sure that the layover is longer rather than shorter. And it is during the daytime and not during the night. You know why? Because instead of wasting time in a random airport during the layover, I will go visit the city. So a long daytime layover is transformed into an extra minute trip that you get completely for free. I did it a few times already and it turned out great. Actually, I vlogged 2 of these layovers that I did. So if you want to see how I managed the logistics, the times, where to leave the luggage and all that stuff, you can go check out those vlogs. I leave them in the description below. One is in Vienna and one is in Lisbon, Portugal. And anyway, I'm going to do an entire video dedicated to how I book my cheap flights. So when it's gonna be ready, I'm gonna link it here in the cards. In my opinion, accommodation is the #1 factor that determines the cost of your trip. Let's say you're going to spend 6 nights in a hotel room. Now, it's hard to determine an average price for a hotel room, but let's say you're gonna go to Milan. An average good hotel room is gonna cost you 70 euros per night. So it's gonna be 420 euros for the entire trip to pay just for accommodation. That's a lot of money. In most of the cases, that's even more than what you spend for a round-trip flight. On the other side, there are multiple ways to cut the cost of accommodation to 0. You've heard right, I said 0. Plus, there are also multiple options between these two extremes, of course. First of all, instead of booking a sterile hotel room, book an Airbnb. I love Airbnb. It certainly has many negative sides, I'm not ignoring them, but the convenience that it brings is incredible. With Airbnb, you can also decide to book not only a room, but an entire apartment with a kitchen and a washing machine. If you're traveling in a big city, it allows you to save a lot. If you're traveling in a small town, usually Airbnb will allow you to meet the local hosts who will humanly welcome you in the foreigner country that you just arrived, and who will also give you the best tip on the area. How convenient is that? Hostels are very much known among young broke travelers, so I'm not gonna talk about the convenience of booking a bed in a 15-bed bedroom for 12 euros. But not many people know that hostels sometimes have some private bedrooms too. So if you are maybe a young couple and you don't want to spend too much, but you still want your own privacy, you may look for an option like that. You just go on hostelworld.com and select double room in the filters. The cheapest option of all is to get hosted for free by locals through one of the hospitality websites available on the web. My favorite and the one I use all the time is Couchsurfing. I became quite an expert using it, so 1 year ago I started to make informational videos about it. To know what it is and how it works, watch this short introductory video on the corner. And if you want to go deeper, I have a full playlist where I collected all my videos on Couchsurfing to know how to use it properly and how to get started, plus more advanced tips on the platform. Check out the playlist that I put together and I will link in the description below. It's packed with golden advices, I promise. Other similar programs or platforms that I've heard of but I've never tried are Servas and Be Welcome. If you're a full-time traveler or a student, or you can travel for a longer period of times, I'd say 10 days minimum, there are other interesting options for you to save on accommodation. I'm talking about those hospitality options where you work in exchange for food and accommodation. So they technically come with a cost, but not in terms of money. Workaway is one of these. I've successfully used it a couple of times already, and although I don't like some technical details about the website, I must say that the idea works pretty well. The biggest advantages of Workaway, in my opinion, are one, that you can stay for longer periods of time because you're actually giving something back in order to have free accommodation, and two, you usually get free meals. A similar concept is what inspired the project WOOF, Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farming, where you do the same thing as Workaway, but you work in an organic farm and you are connected to the national organization of woofing of that specific countries you're visiting. Although these two platforms are completely free, as you can understand, I must warn you that there is a small annual fee that you have to pay in order to use the websites. As much as there is a fee if you want to subscribe to one of the house sitting websites available. House sitting is a service that people who live in a house usually use when they go on vacation for longer periods of time, and they get a traveler to stay in their house and take care of it and take care of their pets and plants too while they go on vacation, while they are away. And that traveler can be you. Another option is to swap house with someone who wants to travel to your country and would like to stay at your place while you stay at his or her place. There are websites specific for house swaps. Last free accommodation option that I give you today is simply to go visit relatives and friends. I am sure that every one of you have some relatives who emigrated abroad or friends who live in other countries. Just go visit them when they offer, and you'll get free accommodation plus a local free guide too.
Explain something.
Food and drinks are going to be our next cost. So usually when we travel, we take in account to eat 2 or 3 meals a day out, right? Well, my very simple but very effective tip is just to take example from the locals. Why do the locals don't spend so much money on food and travelers do? Because they cook at home, right? Whereas travelers traditionally book hotel rooms that don't have anything that resembles a kitchen, so they literally cannot prepare any food at home, so they are forced to eat out. But if you follow my budget advice on accommodation, you're gonna book a place with a kitchen and you're going to save tons of money on food as well. And don't get me wrong, you're still gonna eat out multiple times during your trip because you want to eat the local food and try the traditional meals, but you don't have to eat out every single meal and every single day. For the drinks, sure, one option is to bring your thermos for coffee and hot tea. But also, if you're talking about entertaining drinking, like you want to actually get a couple of beers in the evening in a bar, my advice is to research in advance in order to get the drinks cheaper. Because if you research on Google or on YouTube how to get good deals on drinks in that particular city, I promise you, if they are touristic cities, there are going to be plenty of videos and articles on the topic. Oh, and don't forget that you can also ask directly to locals when you are actually there. When it comes to attractions like museums, shows, bars and so on, there are of course many ways you can save money, but it depends on what you're looking for, of course. What I can suggest in general is this: don't feel obligated to do something just because it's the traditional way of visiting that place. For example, if you go to Paris, you don't have to visit the Louvre. If you go to Sydney, you don't have to visit the Opera House. If you go to Rome, you don't have to visit the Vatican museums. As I said already in another video, I've been to New York so many times and I've never been to the Empire State Building. I know it's difficult because we are very much biased to visit certain things when we are in certain places. But not everyone is interested in the same things, and sometimes it doesn't really make sense to visit something just because it's the traditional touristic way of visiting the city. There is no need to say that usually the most famous attractions are the expensive ones also. If you're not so much into aesthetical beauty or museums, just keep the Vatican museums and instead to go there and pay for the ticket, pay for the umbrella while you wait in line under the sign, pay for the overpriced bottle of water, and pay for the overpriced, touristy, horrible restaurant that you're gonna go to after the visit because you have no energy left to find something better. Just skip that. Go to a less famous neighborhood of the city and just stroll around. It's going to be so much more fun. And then you go to a super local restaurant that is going to be super cheap and absolutely delicious. So understand what you really want, what are your favorite things, and then skip the rest. Understand what it's worth paying and what is not. Yeah guys, I told you that saving money is one of the things that I'm most expert on. So this video could go on and on, but I tried to synthesize as much as I could. I would probably make a separate video about how to find cheap or free accommodation, because the advices that I gave you in this video are only the tip of the iceberg. So if you're interested, please subscribe and click on the bell button for the notifications. Also, if you found this video valuable, share it with your friends that are about to go on vacation, or with your traveler friends. It's all for today. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!